I think we can start the lecture now. Please turn on your camera. Okay, thank you. Thank you for submitting your assignment on time. I haven't had time to check the assignment just now, so I'll check it later. Anyway, what I expect from you in the last assignment is for you to be able to identify the event, which transaction or process that you want to document it, and then the agents and also the resources. Okay, so let me share you the screen. Okay, so if you use, I'll use Visio just because it's easier for me. First, to draw the context diagram, what you need to do is just one circle. Okay, so this is the system, whatever system you want to draw. Okay, and then as many external agents as possible. That were involved with the system. Okay, so and then what you need to do next is drawing a connector, okay, or arrow between the system and the external, okay, with the appropriate arrow. This is just for an example. Say this one. Okay. Okay. Something has to get into the system, the input, and something has to get out of the system, which is the output. Okay, so external agent function is only to send the data into the system or receiving the data into the system. It is a big mistake if you draw a line like this. So, as you may see, I'm not good in drawing. Okay. So if you draw a line like this, okay, this is a mistake. Okay, maybe in real life it happens that external agent 1 having data exchange with external agent 2. That's probably true. But since we only focus on the systems, this must go. Okay, so we only focus on the system and the relation between that system with external agent, vice versa. Okay, so that's how you start the context diagram. Okay, next I will discuss about some obvious mistake that usually happen for drawing data flow diagram. Okay, let's start with okay, here. I'll increase that so you can see. Okay, so what's wrong with this? Any idea what's wrong with the picture? Joshua? With Joshua David? What's wrong with this picture, Joshua? Sorry, you can see this. Okay, what's wrong with this picture, Joshua?
I think the line needs to go from the system.
Okay. Which line?
The external agent,
Okay.
the arrow one.
Okay, yeah, well, which one? There are two of them.
Yeah, I think both. Sir.
Both.
Step
Okay.
wrong.
Okay, well,
I don't know.
okay. Like I said, any system should have at least one input and one output. What you see here is only two inputs without any outputs. Okay.
So, sir, it's
Yeah.
you can give example like external agent 1, external agent 3 is
What do you mean?
the input, and then you can
No,
send back
no.
the error. No?
Just focus on
Oh,
this
it
picture.
just
Just focus on this
uh,
picture. This is the mistake. Okay. Yes, to correct that, we can change the arrow, but that's not the point of the topic of the subtopic of this conversation. The problem is in this picture we only have two inputs without any two input without any output, and that's not right. This is a phenomenon called a black hole, where there are a lot of inputs or some inputs, but there is no output whatsoever. Okay. You probably aware about black hole, which is a natural phenomenon where everything will get sucked into the black hole because of the very strong gravity power, okay, gravity force. So even the light could not escape black hole. Okay, so this is a mistake. And yes, Joshua, it should be at least one of this arrow showing like this. If this is the case, then it's not a problem. Okay. Now, again, this is the opposite of black hole, which is there is no input, but there are some outputs. It's called miracle. You know, something has to come from somewhere. Okay, it just don't appears one day out of nowhere. You know, grabbing something out of thin air. It's just not possible. Okay, at least physically. Yeah. So this is same as information. You got information, it should be from somewhere with the data getting into the system, and then you have the output of this. Called miracle. Okay. Without any input, this system can produce output, which is again a mistake. So far you have I have introduced you to two common mistakes in drawing data flow diagram, which is miracle, output without input, and black hole, input without output. Okay, I need to draw a different. Just a moment, I'll give it to you. Okay. Okay, sorry for that. I have to draw something. Usually, you can see me drawing. Okay, so let me share the content again. Okay, so this is the payroll system example of it, where the employee giving information data into this system, which is address, and then receive data from the payroll, which is payslip, or the report containing detail of the salary or payment he receives. Okay, so what's the problem with this picture? Gladys Nurdita Sari. What's wrong with this picture, Gladys?
There is no the system or the process, I think.
Can you repeat it?
There is no the system.
There is no system.
No, the process.
The process is, this is one, payroll system. This is the process. This is the system. Payroll means processing employee salary. That's called payroll. Payroll system. Okay. System. So it's a system. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Jonathan, Reginald, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture, Jonathan? Can you tell?
Maybe there is no storage.
No. This is a context diagram. There are no storage supposed to. The storage will be inside here, but then we haven't talked about it yet.
Oh, I
This
see.
is okay. So what's wrong with this? Okay, let's see. Jessica, Natalia, what's wrong with this picture, Jessica?
I don't know, sir. I think there is nothing wrong with me.
Okay, good. Okay. Nah. Okay. So let's think about logic for a moment. Okay, you know how people get paid, right? You know how employees like me get paid. Okay, what am I supposed to do to get paid? Pierre? What am I supposed to do
Work,
to get
sir.
paid? Okay, work. So, do you think it's enough for me to just give to the system my address to get paid?
No, sir.
Good.
No, sir.
And that's, yeah, good. Thank you. That's the mistake. The data input into the system is not enough to generate desired output. Okay, so on the first two mistakes, it's quite obvious just looking at the arrow without understanding what the data carried by the arrow. We can understand that there are inputs but no outputs. There are outputs but no inputs. With this, it's a bit tricky. We have to understand how the system works. In this case, payroll system. So let me share that again. Employee need to submit to the system not just the address but other information. Okay, like my attendance, my proof of work, and my status, for example, because usually married employee and single employee have different benefits. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, if that employee had family, sometimes they have to submit their family data into payroll system because of there are some benefit for family and there are some tax consideration because of having family. Okay, so just by supplying address to the payroll system, it's not enough to generate pay slip. Okay, so that's the third mistake. It's called the gray hole. The input, it's not enough to generate the desired output. Okay, so that's how you draw the data flow diagram. And based on the narrative description that you already submitted, I already set up the next assignment for you. This is here, diagrams. Okay. So you need to create a context diagram and level 0 logical data flow diagram for your business process described in the previous assignment. You also need to create a flowchart for your business process described in the previous assignment. Look, I understand that you probably still having problems mastering or drawing diagram, but I would like you to try. Okay, just try and we discuss the result next week. Okay, you have until next week. This is again group effort. Okay, I'll review your works one by one next week. Okay, and as usual, you need to present that to the class, and then I will give you my review. Don't worry if don't feel to be afraid to submit your assignments. I will not judge or mark your assignment down just because you make mistake. Okay. In fact, I'll let you a little bit of a secret, which probably won't be it won't be useful for you until later. But do you know that when you write your thesis later, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, at the end of that thesis writing, you have to defend your thesis in front of 3 lecturers. Okay. I often see, even with my students, that they made mistake in their thesis. Okay. You know, just miscalculation, using the wrong numbers, yeah, things like that. However, as long as they understand their mistake and able to tell based on the theory the correct one or the right one. For example, this is an extreme example. 1 + 1 = 3. That's mistake, obviously. But as long as the examiner, the lecturer, pointed out this is a mistake. 1 + 1 is not 3. So, and then the student could answer, okay, 1 + 1 is 2. Then he or she could pass the exam, even though he or she made a mistake. Okay, so don't worry about next assignment. I'm not going to judge you harshly. Just want you to learn how to draw. That's the aim for that assignment. Okay, so don't be afraid. Just try. If you make a mistake, I'll help you to revise or correct that mistake. Okay, any question?
No, sir. No question.
Okay, good. Now let's continue with our topic. Today we will discuss computer fraud. Okay. Computer fraud is a bit, well, it's not a bit, this is a huge concern in any organization. Okay. You probably can see now that your lecture, your assignment, your exam, all are done through digital system, computer system. Okay, including your mark, your grades. What if somebody could hack into Atmajaya's computer system and change the grade? Okay. There is a movie about it, but it was an old movie. I watched that when I was in high school, so more than 20 years ago. I don't know whether you can, but it's called I can't remember what's the name, but it's something games. Okay. So in that movie, a high school student changing his grade. Okay, and in the process, inadvertently, he create mistake by launching or hacking into the U.S. Department of Defense computer system that control nuclear missiles. Okay, so he almost I remember now the name, the war game. Okay, so the computers that control U.S. Government nuclear missiles went haywire and threatened to launch the missile. Okay, so that's war game. Okay, and in this time now, that threat was real. Just a few weeks ago, the U.S. government announced that plenty of system within their institution, in some of their department, has been hacked by foreign actors. And plenty of information has been stolen. Okay. Earlier, last year, during the, well, I don't think you were still in high school at that time, I think. When we started to work from home using computers, school from home, work from home, Zoom, one of the most popular video meeting application, was having problem with people suddenly joining, some strangers joining meeting and creating problems. That was one example that students, that doctoral or PhD student in the US, in the middle of her doctoral exam defense, some strangers jump into the Zoom meeting and start to create distraction, disturbance, and disrupt the exam. Can you imagine that? a PhD student that has been working toward her final exam for 4 or 5 years, and then when it comes, the dreaded day comes, the final exam, somebody destroyed. So that's become a problem. Some news about the prominent marketplace in Indonesia, Bukalapak, Tokopedia. Some hackers claim that they have hacked into the system and still confidential data about their users. Okay, so that's become a problem for us now, and real problem because it could be done. Okay, you probably aware that some celebrities have their inappropriate movie or picture leaked to the internet. Okay, although it was stored in their personal gadgets. Okay, and it happens over and over and over again. Okay, so that's become a problem. It's not just problem for big business or big companies, but also problem for ordinary people like us. Okay, few years ago, probably more than 10 years ago, some in the exact class, accounting information system, two female students approached me after class, and one of them asking me how to delete data from, how to delete picture from Twitter, she said. And I said, well, it's easy. Select the picture that you want to delete and click delete. But then she said, no, it's belong to somebody else. I mean, and then I felt strange. Why did this female students want to delete pictures from somebody else's Twitter account? And then she elaborated. She said that she had a laptop with some personal picture. I don't have the heart to ask what kind of picture. If it's picture of her, I don't know, eating fried rice, it wouldn't be a problem, I think. So it must be personal. And then the personal picture from her hard drive, she claimed that she never land or never had her laptop being used by anybody else. At least that was her story. But one of the personal pictures suddenly posted on Twitter by somebody else. Okay. So I asked her, so I suggest her to ask the Twitter account to delete the picture. She said she did. No respond. And then she asked, what if she reported to the police? And I said, well, she could, but if the picture is on Twitter, nothing the Indonesian police could do. And then I asked her to complain to Twitter, to submit a report to Twitter, and she said she did. Nothing happened. And yeah, obviously, if it's just ordinary Twitter user like me, for example, Twitter won't care about those kind of things, at least at that time. And I said to her, well, there's nothing you can do anymore. Okay. Even though the person who posted that picture to Twitter delete the picture, it's not completely deleted. Twitter just marked that as not to be displayed and move that picture to somewhere else inside Twitter. Okay, that's first. Second, there is no guarantee that somebody else already seen the picture and saved that picture into their own devices. Okay, so that's another thing. Okay, so fraud is concerning not just us, not just big company, big business, but also us, personal. Okay, probably if, for example, if my data, personal data, being leaked over the internet, there will be no huge scandal nationally, but that's still making me having troubles. Okay, so what common threats to accounting information system? First, natural disaster. Volcano eruption, earthquake, forest fire, flood. Okay, like the one in Jakarta or any other place in Pantura, for example. Terrorist threats, somebody bomb something, things like that. Okay, so it's usually inevitable, and sometimes even with the best preparation, terrorist threats or natural disaster could not be avoided. For example, in Japan in 2011, Japan already prepared for earthquake and tsunami. However, in 2011, the earthquake in Japan creating tsunami bigger than the wall that supposed to hold tsunami. Okay. So the tsunami hit Japan. Terrorist threat. You remember 9/11, where two hijacked planes hit the World Trade Center buildings, the Twin Tower in New York. Okay. That was not the first time World Trade Center was attacked by terrorists. Few years before that, the World Trade Center actually had a car bomb exploded within their underground parking. So there were trucks full of bomb get inside the World Trade Center, it's underground parking area, and then it was exploded. Okay, so World Trade Center at that time still strong enough. They fixed the damage from the bomb blast, and then they're beefing up security. All people and vehicle entering World Trade Center have to go through thorough security checks. Okay. However, nobody actually anticipated that somebody could hijack a plane and fly it and hitting the Twin Tower. Nobody. Okay, so that's the common threat. Okay. The second threats are software errors or equipment malfunction. You know, your software crash, your computer suddenly crash, the webcam on your devices suddenly just gave up and could not display pictures, corrupt file, things like that. Okay. The third is unintentional act or human error. You spill coffee on your computer. You walk and trip on cable which is attached to your computers, and then it brings down your computers or your laptop down to mobile phone fell into bathroom or puddle of water, okay, things like that. Human error. Next, intentional act, computer crimes. Somebody hack into the system or somebody steal your computers, your devices, okay, physically. That happens. It happens to me once when I was in Jakarta and was on Bajai. Somebody grabbed my mobile phone and ran away. Okay, that happens, and that's intentional act. Okay, so the most dangerous part of common threats to accounting fraud is this one, intentional act. Okay. In accounting, it will be called as fraud. What is fraud? Fraud is gaining an unfair advantage over another person. If you gaining advantage, as long as it's fair, it will be classified as fraud. But if you gain unfair advantage over somebody else, then it will be classified as fraud. Okay, so to be called fraud, something has to satisfy these 5 criteria. First, the perpetrator create a false statement, representation, or disclosure. So, second, that false statements concerning material fact that induce a person to act. Third, that person creating or issuing that statement knowingly that the information is false. So there is an intention to deceive. Okay, let me give you this example. If I said to you, I'm rich, I have 10 billion US dollar in my pocket. That's a false statement, obviously. But it's not a fraud. Why? Because nobody will believe me. Okay. However, if you say that, please invest in my company is profitable. Okay. And people do invest in your company. But the reality is your company is not profitable. Your company is going to bankrupt. And you receive that investment not to improve or not to expand the company, to make the company grow, but just to pay for the debt of your company. So that's a false statement. You know it's not true because your company is going to the drain, but you said that it's profitable, and that's quite material or significant. Material means significant. That induce a person to act. So somebody else had to tell you, please invest. The investor, please invest in my company. It's profitable. They invest to your company. Okay, so a justifiable reliance or the fraudulent fact in which person takes action. It means because you convince somebody else with your false statement, somebody else invests in your company, and therefore, because it's false statement, it's fraudulent. That person, that victim, suffer injury or loss. They lost the money. Okay. So individuals who commit a fraud are referred to as white-collar criminal. It means this is the criminals that not involving physical strength or physical power. You don't point a gun, you don't use knife, you don't threaten violence to other people, but you persuade them, you manipulate them, you manipulate the victim, things like that. Okay. So what are the form of fraud? Misappropriation of asset, theft of company asset, for example. We are working from home, but usually during the class when we met, I always show the students eraser or board marker, and I said, if I took board marker home for my own purpose, for example, to decorate my home, whatever, that's theft of company's asset. Okay. And largest factors of theft of company assets is absence of internal control system and failure to enforce internal control system. Okay. Few years ago, Citibank in Indonesia had a scandal where one of their employees manipulate high, what do you call it, high profitable customer, and stealing money from customer using Citibank. Okay, so you probably heard her name is Melinda D. So she manipulate high rank or high profile Citibank customer and stealing money from them. Okay. Why is that happen? Is Citibank doesn't have some system to prevent it? Yes, they do have, but it's not absent. They just failure to enforce that. See, Melinda was on her position for 10 years in a row. In bank, you don't do that. My father was a bank, employee of a bank, and he was on the same position as Melinda, marketing position, dealing with customer. Okay, but every 2 or 3 years, my father was transferred to other branch. She used to work in Bantul branch, and then he was transferred to the Yogyakarta branch, and then he was transferred to Sleman branch, and after that, after 2 years, he was transferred to Pekalongan branch. So moving to other places. Why? We will discuss it later. But after 2 or 3 years, you're getting along with the customers. You are supposed to do. But if you're having good relationship with the customer, as a banking officer, you become not objective. And that's danger. So have to. With Melinda, 10 years in the same position. Okay, that's violation of Citibank's rules. That's why at the time after the scandal being known to public, the Citibank Indonesia country director was removed from his position and replaced by somebody else. Why? Because they failed to enforce the rules and regulation. Okay, but misappropriation of asset, although it's happened frequently, the loss is not that big. The biggest loss could be from this fraudulent financial reporting. It's not creating fake financial report, it's genuine financial report, but it's not representing the real financial condition. So fraudulent financial reporting is intentional, reckless conduct in materially misleading financial statement. Okay, so why? The reason for fraud. One, to deceive investor or creditor, increase the company stock price, meet cash flow needs, and hide company losses or other problems. The classic example of this was Enron. At the time, when Enron was an energy company in the US. It was one of the biggest energy company in the US. But Enron was not working on oil. Enron was working on natural gas. Okay. It's cleaner than oil, they said. Okay. So Enron was one of the biggest energy company in the US. Admirable company. Okay. But then one day in 2001, the scandal erupted, and it was showing that Enron falsified their financial statement. In reality, Enron was suffering from loss, but in their financial report, Enron reported growth and profits. So they manipulate the financial reporting to deceive investors. At the time, before the scandal, Enron stock price was about somewhere in range of $100 per stock, per share. Sorry. After the scandal, it's straight down to zero. Okay, and then Enron was declared bankrupt, and those perpetrators, all the people who manipulate the financial statement, was sentenced to jail. One actually passed away before being jailed. Okay. So how to reduce fraud? First, establish environment which support the integrity of the financial reporting process. Sorry. Identify factors that lead to fraud, assess the risk of fraud within company, and design and implement internal controls to provide assurance that fraud is being prevented. So this is the key actually. Design and implement internal controls. We will discuss next week. So okay. That's why, for example, in some department store, when you buy something, the salesperson will create the invoice, but you pay to the cashier. And then after you pay to the cashier, you'll take the product from somebody else. So it's involved at least 3 people. And this is why, if you remember, the difference between accounting information system and financial accounting is you need to identify the agent. I've made this over and over. I've stressed this point over and over. You need to identify the agent. You need to identify why, because each agent, each person who involved in a transaction, they have their own rules. And if they violate their rules, then it could lead to a fraud. Okay. And fraud is not just concern of the company. Fraud also concern of the auditor. If you're working for auditor firm, you need to be able to identify or detect fraud before it's actually happened. Why? Because it's your responsibility. Let me ask you this. Hildegard, Arnaldo. Okay. Do you know how many big accounting firm in the world? How many big accounting firm?
Don't know the precise number, sir.
Now, do you familiar with the term Big Four?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Can you name one of them?
One of the big firm company. You
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Big firm accounting firm. Big Four accounting firm. Can you name one? Come on, you're an accounting student.
I will say the Price Waterhouse.
Good. PricewaterhouseCoopers. Good. That's the biggest. Okay. And there is Ernst & Young, KPMG, and also Deloitte. Okay, there are big four. Okay, but do you know what? Before 2000, before Enron scandal, there were big five, and PricewaterhouseCoopers was not the biggest. The biggest accounting firm before 2000 was a company called Andersen, or it used to be known as Arthur Andersen. It was the biggest accounting firm in the world. PricewaterhouseCoopers doesn't even come close. But you never heard Andersen anymore. Why? Because Andersen was involved in fraud that happened in Enron. Okay, so Andersen was paid $1 million per week to be Enron auditor, and they just look the other way when Enron executive or directors manipulate the financial report. Just when the US government starting to investigate Enron, Arthur Andersen accounting firm that handled the Enron account destroy the evidence. They destroy all the paperwork related to Enron audit. More than a ton of paper was destroyed at that time. So there is no evidence of Arthur Andersen knowing the fraud. Okay. But Arthur Andersen was punished by the US government. They were indicted with obstruction of justice, destroying evidence, and then found guilty by the court. And after that, Arthur Andersen as accounting firm just no longer exists. People doesn't trust Arthur Andersen anymore because they seems shady. They work with criminals, they work with fraudsters, they destroy evidence that will not look good on companies' image or optics. So a lot of, at that time, a lot of Arthur Andersen accountants, employees, going to Ernst & Young. Okay, so that's why when it used to be big five, nowadays we only know big four because the biggest one was involved in Enron scandal. Okay. Okay. So why people committing fraud? If you look at corruption cases, a lot of corruptors was respected, well-known, good people. Okay. There was once a professor from Bandung Institute of Technology that was sentenced. He found guilty on corruption. I think he was the vice minister of energy. Okay. As a professor at Bandung Institute of Technology, he was rich enough. He had all the money. He was well respected. Had a good career. But he gambled all away and committed to corruption. Why? So there is a research about white-collar criminals and why these white-collar criminals did what they did. Okay, it's different from robber, different from thieves, different from pickpocket. That sometimes people that committed violent crimes, they did that because of physical needs. You don't have money, you steal. You're hungry, you pickpocket somebody, things like that. But these people who committed fraud, they were not poor. They were well respected. Okay, they don't have to kill or to be killed. They were in just ordinary. Sometimes even with corruptors, when somebody was arrested, a lot of people said, "But he was so religious. He was a good person. He or she active in religious activities. He went to, he prayed a lot, or she prayed a lot, things like that." That's so why people committed fraud. This theory called fraud triangle. Fraud could happen because of pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. Okay, let's start with pressure. Pressure is the motivation or incentive to commit fraud. Okay, it could be because of perceived needs. Okay, related to financial, emotional, or lifestyles. For example, this is often happen that why don't you get better car than our neighbor? Our neighbor position is less than you, for example, like that. Or I have vices like gambling, or having affair, or drugs. Okay, I could not ask Pak Budi Suprapto, for example, please Pak Budi, raise my salary. Why? Because I need to pay for drugs. I need heroin, for example. That's not possible to say that. So that's motivation or incentive to commit fraud. Okay. With financial statement fraud, the motivation a bit different. In the case of Enron, for example, in the US, executive or director of company was not only judge their performance by profit or growth or whatever, but by share or stock price. As long as the investor having their stock or share rise in prices, then the companies have done a great job. If you're profitable but the stock price slumped down, you are not doing a great job. So in Enron case, the Enron directors, Enron executives tried as hard as they could to manipulate the financial report to create increase in Enron stock price or share price. Okay. So that's pressure. Opportunity. This is a condition or situation that allow person or organization to commit fraud, to conceal the fraud, and convert the fraud into something that for personal gain. For example, I can get for example, I can take the computers in the faculty or our faculty on my own. I don't have to report to somebody else and nobody paying attention to what I did. I can steal the computers. But that's not the case. If I need to borrow faculty computers, I have to make written request to the Dean, Pak Budi Suprapto, and then if the Dean allowed that, I have to use that letter to borrow the computer, and I have to fill out many forms saying what I borrowed this computer, what for, and when should I return it. And then at the date that I have to return that computer, I need to return that computer, and that I get proof that I already written the computer. Things like that. Okay, so it's impossible. Well, not impossible. It's very hard to steal computers from the faculty. Why? Because there is no opportunity. Okay. Third, and this is the most hard part, is rationalization. Look, a lot of people who commit fraud saying that I'm not doing this for myself, I'm doing this for somebody else. Or if I steal asset from the company, I said that I didn't steal it. The company has abandoned me. Our company didn't care. I don't get a raise for 10 years, so I just take what I deserve, things like that. I don't do this for my benefit. I do this to pay for my children sickness, for example. Okay, things like that. So a lot of people, normal people like you and me, we are capable of stealing, but there is some small voice in our head that prevent us to steal. Okay. Now, those corruptors or perpetrator of fraud, they also had this small voice in their head to prevent them from committing fraud, but they creating justification to justify their action. I'm not stealing, I'm just taking what I deserve since the company doesn't give me raise in 10 years. I've been with the company so many years and they don't appreciate me, so I just take whatever I think fair, things like that. Okay. So that's the fraud triangle. Pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. With only, we cannot do anything about pressure and rationalization. Okay. It's up to the person. Some company probably have, well, not some company, but a lot of company have tried to only recruit honest people, good people. Yes, they probably starting as a good, honest employee, but after years and years of working, people change, and some change because of their greed, some change because of circumstances, things like that. Basically, there is nothing you can do about it, you know. But a company could do something about opportunity, which is creating a condition or situation that it's very hard for their employees to commit fraud. Okay, and that's called internal control, which is we'll discuss next week. Okay, computer fraud. Computer fraud is any illegal act which knowledge of computer technology is necessary for perpetration. So you use computer technology to commit fraud. Investigation, the police will use computer to investigate, and prosecution, the prosecutor will use that. A lot of computer fraud is go undetected, and a lot of them are not reported. Remember when Bukalapak and also Tokopedia denied that their system being hacked? Okay. Lack of network security. How many of you have the same password for different application, for example, or telling other people your password? Okay. And to be honest, law enforcement in Indonesia is not really ready for computer fraud. Indonesian police have division of computer fraud, but they are understaffed. Okay. And it's very difficult to calculate loss. Okay, so what classification of computer fraud? First, input fraud, alteration or falsifying input. You use a fake ATM card, for example. Okay. Data fraud, you copy you steal data from Tokopedia, for example. Okay, things like that. Okay, so that's the fraud. Okay. Any question so far? About fraud? Okay. Enron was happening in 2001, so it's 20 years ago. The recent example of fraud is this company. So, okay. So this is this lady's name is Elizabeth Holmes. She was known as the founder of a company called Theranos. Okay. So what Theranos? Theranos is a startup company that looked promising in the US. Okay. What is their product? So Elizabeth Holmes promising. You know that whenever you have to go to blood tests or medical tests, you have to go to the laboratory and have your blood taken, and then the laboratory will analyze your blood. Okay. Usually, although the laboratory or the doctor or the nurse could take your blood everywhere, they still have to send your blood to the laboratory. Why? Because the machine to analyze blood is so big and so complicated that it has to be in a physical building. Theranos promising to change that. Elizabeth Holmes claimed that her company, Theranos, can produce mobile lab. So instead of you go to Paramita, Prodia, or hospitals for blood tests, they can use, I think it's the product of Theranos. Let me see if I can get the. So this is the machine, Zika detection box. So this is just not that big. It's just as big as, I don't know, computers, okay, printers, okay, if you can see this. So what happened was with this, it's supposed to be, you put your blood here and get into the system, get into this box, and this box will analyze your blood, and the result, which claimed as similar to, ordinary blood tests in the lab, will be printed out. Okay, so you can have blood tests on the field. You can have blood tests even in your home if you like. Okay, that's the premise. Which is now in today's technology, that's not impossible. It could be done. The problem is the product that being sold by Theranos is not actually work. Okay. So Elizabeth Holmes claimed that they have working products and they need investor to expand the production to sell this more. Okay, and she claims that her device has been tested by well-known laboratory and being claimed as it can replace traditional medical laboratory, just with the product as big as computers. But that's not the truth. Okay? The product didn't work, and investor already invest a lot of money in Theranos, and then it was revealed that Elizabeth Holmes lied to their investors. There is no working product. There is no product that can replace medical laboratory. That's fraud. Okay, and that's just recently, just before the pandemic. Okay. Okay, if there is no question, I think that's it for today. Okay, just now I got chat from Vincentius. If you have the needs to go to bathroom or take a break during the lectures, please do so. Okay, you don't have to ask for my permission. This is not a classroom. Okay, I understand that since we are learning from home, we will have disruption. Even when we are in the classroom, we will have disruption. Okay, so that's fine. You can drink, you can eat, you can go to the bathroom, you can answer the door if somebody knock on your door, or if your parents ask you to do something, fine. Okay, I understand completely. Okay, so just do it and get back to the lecture as soon as possible. Okay. Okay, so that's it for this week. See you next week.